Now, since we talked about the running backs, let's slide and transition into the running back position. Did not even mean to set the rhymes there, right? Your boy Big Sally V here on the beats, but did not even mean to hit that mean verse. I mean, slide in transition into the running back position. I got some mean verses out there. I don't want to be ghostwriting and giving them away for free. So if you need them, let me know. But this is what we're doing here. This is not for cash games. If you are a cash game player, yes, I'm going to have more interest in Jonathan Taylor, a lot more interest in some of the other names that you're not going to see featured at the top of this list, like maybe a Joe Mixon or an Antonio Gibson. But these are the guys, again, another fucking rhyme right there. Mixon to the Antonio Gibson. Oh my God. But Alexander Mattison up top right now. I like him. Alexander Mattison, yes, he is going to pick up ownership. He is probably going to be, I currently have Alexander Mattison coming in for, let's see, 15% ownership. On my projections on Patreon, you get them down below. Go ahead, get the ownership projections. Improve your game, the optimizer, the Discord with a ton of members, 1,000 members or so. So be sure to get up in there on Patreon. But Alexander Mattison right now, he's expensive. The matchup is great. 7-point favorite with a 27 implied team total. I don't have to tell you, the dead last ranked run stop from Detroit. But the bigger thing here when we're talking about GPPs, not just the surface stats and the narrative to put around it, is that I think Alexander Mattison is going to be in the winning lineup like a third of the time, like 35% of the time or so. And I just told you he's 15% owned. So there's massive leverage there. Like Alexander Mattison is not the best play on the entire week at the running back position, but I'd say he's a top 3 play at the running back position for all formats, for cash, for large field GPPs, for small field. So there's going to be some ownership there, but not an overwhelming amount. The next man on this list is not going to be as highly owned because he's dealing with injury, but he's expected to play, and that's just going to be Darrell Henderson Jr. Now, I don't think he's going to be as good of a leverage play, quite honestly, because I think there's so many guys in his price range that none of them are going to pop off as this is the obvious play to win you the slate, right? I don't think any of them are going to be in that range. Like, you're going to see other guys in this price range of Darrell Henderson. You're going to see Elijah Mitchell, James Conner, David Montgomery, Antonio Gibson. Like, all these guys are there that they all have a decent chance of winning you the slate. Some of them may pop off a little bit more. Henderson's not one of them, but Henderson, 20 opportunities last week against the Packers, continues to see all the passing game usage, all the routes run, all the red zone usage on this team, continues to operate as like a borderline top 5 opportunity share running back, and he's coming in with decent ownership. And oh yeah, he's the largest favorite on the slate, a 12.5 point favorite with the second highest team total, and now he gets Jacksonville. So if you're not playing, you're more likely, I'm not putting Henderson in my Ram stacks. If you're not playing the Ram stacks, there is a much, much higher chance that you should be going to Henderson. Henderson is fantastic leverage off of the Ram stacks. I currently have Darrell Henderson Jr. in my projections on Patreon coming in for like a 12% ownership number, so he's going to look good. You scroll down to guys who are similarly priced. Elijah Mitchell, James Conner. This is the guy that I like a lot more. I would say that both James Conner and Elijah Mitchell I would take over Darrell Henderson because, one, I do like the Ram stacks more, so I'm just not going to get there as much. But the second reason being ownership and leverage that you'll get on these guys. Elijah Mitchell has continued to see now 30-plus opportunities in a couple straight games. He's getting the passing game work. Trey Sermon is hurt, although I don't think that means much, but he's getting the passing game work. Debo's no longer there. It is a tougher matchup, but somebody asked me in the Discord, aren't you worried about 8-man boxes that Seattle's going to run? Elijah Mitchell leads this slate amongst all running backs in the highest amount of 8-man boxes that he sees. The teams know San Fran wants to run the ball. And it quite honestly has not mattered because Kyle Shanahan is great with his running scheme. They run so damn often that when he gets 30 attempts, he's just getting you there in general, and he's getting the touchdowns, the red zone usage, and now he's getting the passing game usage. So yeah, if Seattle goes 8-man boxes, which it's rarely like 8, it's more so like 7 or 6-man boxes. They bring an extra man into the box. If they're going to do that, it's nothing different than what he's already been seeing and producing in previous weeks. And again, because of all these players that are on this screen going to be priced around Elijah Mitchell, you're not going to see overwhelming ownership. I currently have Elijah Mitchell coming in for 12% projected ownership, and I think that number should be closer to about 20%, 18%, somewhere in there. Similar things can be said for James Conner, especially if Kyler Murray, who is trending to play, can play this week. I think that James Conner is probably a top 5 running back play on the week. You have your Alexander Madisons. I think Elijah Mitchell falls into that category. And James Conner is somewhere between like 3 and 5 in that list because I think that he has a clearly high ceiling. He's seeing all the opportunity share in this backfield, scratching Eno Benjamin for like 3 carries and maybe a target in this game. The rest of it, 18 to 20 plus opportunities and probably 20 plus based on what we've been seeing, is going to go James Conner's way. James Conner, who I currently have projecting out for like 18.5 fantasy points, one of my top value running backs. The ownership is going to be there though. That's the thing. Like, you're not going to have insane leverage on James Conner because he's going to come in as like a 16 to 18% owned running back. But it's at least going to be maybe 5 to 10% less than Jonathan Taylor's ownership, and it's going to be less than it should be. Like, James Conner should probably be 22 to 25% owned this week. He won't be because of the other names around him. You keep going down, David Montgomery comes in. He'll be a little bit of a leverage play for the exact same reasons as he's a little bit cheaper than Conner and Mitchell, so you get a little bit of a price discount there. He's coming into this game as an underdog, which isn't great to see, but he does get the number 31 ranked run defense in Arizona. So if we're talking about from a leverage standpoint, not as much leverage is going to come to, I would say, David Montgomery than maybe an Elijah Mitchell and a James Conner, but you get the price discount is where the bonus comes in there and the nice matchup. And now who I would say is the best player in the entire week is Jamal Williams. You don't have to overthink this one. Godwin Owukabuk is like, I'm butchering that last name. He played in the preseason. He was a 4-year safety in college and never played running back, so he definitely does not know how to pass protect properly. Jamar Jefferson, their backup, who was decent in college, although slow, not that athletic, he's out. DeAndre Swift is out, so it leaves Jamal Williams, a guy that coaches love, a guy that this coaching staff loves. They gave 20 opportunities in 2.5 quarters last week with no DeAndre Swift to Jamal Williams. He has dominated in the Packers with the Packers in the past, and I know it's a different team, but similar foe, if you will, in this divisional matchup against Minnesota, who doesn't have a great run defense, and a solid pass-catching running back in Jamal Williams, who his only backup is a man who played safety in college for 4 years. Yes, Jamal Williams, even though he's a decent-sized underdog, I think that only leads to him running 25 routes potentially in this game, seeing 6 or 7 targets from the check-down master and Jared Goff, and the other thing is his price point. So the price point's just going to make it even better. It's no secret. Jamal Williams will probably be, I'll say that it's going to be Jonathan Taylor, the highest owned running back this week, maybe James Conner and Alexander Mattison, and then Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams, in my opinion, should be close to 40% owned this week. He will never be 40% owned unless you're playing in a small field contest. I could pretty much say Jamal Williams will probably be my highest owned running back this week. I have Jamal Williams as my number one value. I have Jamal Williams currently coming in and currently projecting out for, I believe, 15% ownership. Let's see where he is. $5,400 Jamal Williams. I have for 20% ownership right now. I think that that's going to still be too low. I have Jamal Williams as a play that gets into winning lineups close to 40% of the time this week. Looks like a slam dunk. You want to get leverage off of players, and that's fine if you don't want to play Jamal Williams. There's so many guys like David Montgomery, like Elijah Mitchell, if you can afford them. But if there was a free square, especially as a cash player, it would be Jamal Williams, just because there's no other threat of touches. It's just hard not to get those touches at this price tag. If there was a guy to leverage off of him with, it would be this player. This player is a yes for me for one reason only: leverage, 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 and that's it. His name is Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders last week was dominating, almost 7 yards per touch. This running game is so fantastic. And then he got hurt. He basically didn't play the entire second half. He had like 50 total yards, like 7 fantasy points at half. He would have hit the 100-yard bonus probably. He would have gotten you somewhere around 20 fantasy points, but he got hurt and he did not. Jordan Howard is not trending in the right direction. I know Boston Scott was highly involved last week, but what you're hoping, and Boston Scott's going to remain involved. He'll probably see 10 or 12 carries. You're hoping that the 16 carries and the 2 catches that Miles Sanders gets either finds the end zone or hits the 100-yard bonus. For a team in the Eagles that continues to want to run the ball a ton. And what do they have this week? Oh, the number one matchup in football for running backs against the New York Jets. They're 7-point favorites. You're rarely going to find the Eagles being a 7-point favorite with a 26 implied team total. Oh, yes, Jalen Hurts can still not throw the ball. Maybe this offseason he can, and I hope so. I like the guy. I'm rooting for him. But for Miles Sanders, and even Boston Scott at his price tag, if Sanders can come back from this injury, he starts to look really fucking good at $5,200 as a leverage play who let people down last week. And, I mean, you're going to get 20-something% on Jamal Williams. Miles Sanders is going to be like 4% owned this week. All the leverage in the world on that man in GPPs. And now the remainder of the running backs, you might be saying, oh, why don't you like these guys? They're on here as an interest of mine. There's just reasons I don't like them as much. Jonathan Taylor, I don't like as much because I like Cooper Kupp, who I have projected for basically at this point similar fantasy points and a lot less ownership. Jonathan Taylor is going to be highly owned. It's not going to be anything bad, though. If you want to play Jonathan Taylor, he still projects out as, to me, a top 5 running back play. I honestly can make him a yes. There's not much there. Just trying to differentiate between him and some other players. If you force me to choose Cooper Kupp at wide receiver or Taylor, I would choose Taylor. Austin Eckler, want to get there. Love the game environment. He's just coming in over-owned for me right now to commit to. Similar things can be said for Joe Mixon, coming in a little bit over-owned as their price tags continue to rise. Leonard Fournette and Cordell Patterson, I'll definitely take Leonard Fournette there, especially if you're not playing the Patriots, but former team of the Patriots, Tampa Bay stacks. I think that Fournette becomes more appealing. Obviously, 11-point favorite. Things there start to stand out. The problem is he's picking up ownership. He's 16% owned right now. If that drops to like 10 to 12%, you're going to see me put a yes on Fournette. And then the final guys on here, Antonio Gibson, I think he's coming in over-owned. I don't think he's going to see this massive passing game role that people are expecting. And with other guys in that price range all standing out, I'll take Elijah Mitchell, James Conner, and Jamal Williams in the price range. Same thing can be said for James Robinson as a massive underdog in a terrible spot with a bad team total. The only other guy on here worth a damn if you're trying to punt below 5K is DJ Dallas, but I mean, that probably lines up for you seeing like 8 to 10 touches and not having a good day. Just go to Miles Sanders for a similarly low-owned player. Let's actually do it live on the stream together. DJ Dallas, get out of here. You're now a no. So that's the quarterbacks and running backs. I'm trying to emphasize it even more for this week. That is very, very ownership dependent. Everybody's going to want to play Jonathan Taylor. I get it. A lot of people are going to play Alexander Madison's and James Conners and Jamal Williams. And like we said, some of those guys are really good plays. They're still leverage plays based on what their price tag is, but you have to be able to find the proper leverage plays depending on your contest.